find much success. And Ryan Smith of the men's lacrosse team joins the show for an exclusive interview. And a COVID-free Nick Hedrick, that's me, returns for hot takes. You won't want to miss this one. We won't let you down like the Pirates on CSC.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Colonial Sports Center. It is Tyler Gallo alongside Ethan Morrison, and Jack O'Brien is out hiking in the Alps. We're not sure when he's going to be back, but Ethan, we have a pretty lax show today, don't we?
Oh my gosh, Gallo, yes we do. We are talking all things men's and women's lacrosse, as well as softball, and we have a football discussion later today, so it should be a really good show.
That's right, but let's first start with men's lacrosse. So they were in action in Rock Hill, South Carolina at the Crown Lacrosse Classic to take on Jacksonville. Let's see how they fared against the Dolphins. So picking up action in the first half, it's going to be Ryan Smith sneaking in like a ninja and putting it in the net there for the first goal of the Colonials day to make it 2-1 in favor of the Dolphins. Then we'll put it on to Evan Tyler, who finds Matt Stagnita, who drives it into the zone and scores and makes it 4-1 Jacksonville. This is a high-scoring game, and then Ryan Smith moves so nice, he scored twice and gets that goal right there to put the Colonials, actually tie the game at 5. And then, so we'll move into the second half. Right now we have Evan Tyler. Hey, that's my name. He goes down an absolute cannon of a shot and scores, and this game was just absolutely a slugfest, 13-10 on that one. And Ryan Smith scores his 6th and finishes 3 shy of the Ovechtrick, which is 9 goals. Does not get that Ovechtrick though. And then we'll move down into the later portion of the game. It's going to be Jeremy Winston with a nice shimmy and stop and scores and makes this one a 15-50 game. But then Jimmy Perkins, who started playing hockey when the Flyers lacrosse when the Flyers last won the Stanley Cup, as he gets the game winner, and the Colonials win this one 16-15.
One player that has been a dominant force on the Colonials offense this season is Ryan Smith. He has tallied 33 goals, 16 assists, and a total of 49 points. Owen Krebs and Nate Bryson sat down with him to discuss how he has fared during the season. Let's check it out.
How early in your life did you pick up a lacrosse stick, and when did you start to play?
Yeah, being from Ontario up in Canada, I always played hockey and lacrosse since the age of 3. So I started skating when I was about 2.5. Then that winter when I turned 3, started playing hockey. Then started playing lacrosse the next summer as well. Actually, a pretty funny story about how I started playing lacrosse. My dad went to watch my cousin play t-ball and just said he's not watching it. So he signed me up for a little bit more of an exciting sport.
So when in your career did you start to realize, like playing, in high school and things like that, did you start to realize that you were, you're pretty good at lacrosse and you kind of wanted to do it as long as you could?
Yeah, no, I was definitely a late bloomer. Not a lot of people know this, but going into high school, I was only 4'10", so not really the biggest guy by any means, and I wasn't really athletic back then either, and kind of had a 15-16 inch growth spurt throughout high school. So Robert Morris was only the Division I school that I really talked to for playing lacrosse. So no, definitely didn't really know it was going to turn out like this, and very grateful for Coach McMinn and everything he's done for me and giving me this opportunity.
Throughout your career, you had the opportunity you guys won back-to-back NEC titles and then appeared in those back-to-back NCAA tournaments. What was that experience like and playing in those games?
Oh, it was awesome. Being a part of the first 2 teams that I've ever done that in program history. Like I said, going back to all the RMU greats, they've never won the NEC title or anything like that. So it was definitely a special feeling being a part of those teams that were able to win the NEC championship and then go on to the NCAA tournament. Just raising those standards for teams in the future to follow.
What was your thought process like on coming back because of the extra year of eligibility? And what are you looking to do in your graduate senior year?
Yeah, definitely a sour taste in the mouth after last year got canceled and not being able to go out how our senior class wanted to go out. So just through talking with Coach McMinn, I saw it'd be a great opportunity to come back. I'm doing my master's degree right now, so being able to further my education was obviously the biggest decision. And I thought it would be pretty dumb of me not to come back, to be honest, and I'm kind of happy I did.
What has the schedule been like in terms of road games, and how can that boost a lot of team chemistry, especially in the early parts of the season?
Yeah, for sure. We've always kind of had the mindset of we'll play anyone, anywhere, anytime, and we're just kind of embodying that this year. We've always kind of been road warriors throughout my 5 years here, but definitely this year. It's a little tougher to build that chemistry, like I said, just because of COVID. You're kind of just stuck in your hotel rooms, can't really go mingle with the rest of the team like we've had been in previous years, but definitely just talking with guys on the bus and whatnot. It definitely just builds a lot of team chemistry.
And as we've mentioned, throughout the podcast so far, you're closing in on the point record, the goal record here at RMU. Throughout the years, what has been that motivating factor that has sort of led to your success?
Yeah, just kind of trying to get better every single day. Just like I said, when I came in as a freshman, just kind of wasn't really expecting much. Just try to work hard and practice every day, and took my opportunities when I got them. And that's always just what I've kind of strived for, just being able to seize that opportunity once you've given it. So my motivation is just kind of laying it all out there every day, working my hardest every day.
After that interview with Ryan Smith, we're now joined with two of our best men's lacrosse analysts in Owen Krebs and Colby Sherwin. Guys, first off, thanks for joining me today. And now, from 4'10" to being in the discussion for the Tewaaraton Award, which is the men's lacrosse Heisman of sorts, Ryan Smith is actually in the discussion for it, but he has an outside chance to win. What do you guys think? Owen, we'll start with you.
I wish, but probably not. As much as he deserves it, Robert Morris is not the biggest school in the world, and there's so many other better NCAA players that could win this one. For instance, Chris Gray, North Carolina, Vito Musa from Marist, he's averaging 4 goals a game. Ryan Smith currently averaging 3.67. That's 7th in the entire NCAA. But just like Robert Morris as a university, Ryan is not getting as much respect as he could potentially get, even though he more than well deserves it.
Yeah, I think just because of the size of the school, he doesn't really have an outside chance. Ryan Smith was named to the mid-season All-American Honorable Mention team, so he's getting some recognition overall in his career. All 5 years, he had 195 points. He's had 127 goals, 68 assists, so he's put up the numbers. I just think the size of the school is really going to hurt him in the end.
All right, guys, and it's certainly been a pretty great season for him so far, by all means, even though he may not get the award recognition. We'll have a little bit more for men's lacrosse after the break, and a record-breaking performance by a women's lacrosse player when we come back.
Jordan knows he shouldn't eat this entire bowl of nachos, but tonight he's earned that right, because a few hours ago in the middle of happy hour, he recognized a sign, not from the gods or a bolt of lightning, but from a double heart, a kissy face, and a fourth ha in ha ha ha. That's when Jordan knew he was buzzed. So when it was time to go, he got a ride home instead of driving. Be a legend like Jordan. Recognize your buzzed warning signs and get a ride home. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Freedom. It's at the core of who we are. The freedom to live without fear, to jog where we please, to wear a hoodie. The freedom to breathe. Before we celebrate the freedom most Americans have, we must fight for the freedom all Americans deserve. Because all lives can't matter until Black lives matter.
When I first saw a turtle, my heart was full. Now I'm anything but lonely.
We have this deep connection, this heart connection.
He just wants to be close to you and part of your life.
Every day with Turtle is a perfect day.
When I'm holding her, it makes me feel calmer.
I think everything he does shows how much he loves us.
When we adopt a shelter pet,
we discover
they're a little bit of a lot of things,
but they're all pure love.
Welcome back to Colonial Sports Center, and once again I'm joined by Colby Sherwin and Owen Krebs, two of our best men's lacrosse analysts. Now guys, it's been a pretty interesting season with the ups and downs of the men's lacrosse team going on the road, coming back, but now they return home and play Cleveland State for the game this weekend, Saturday at 1. Owen, do you think they're going to win out this season?
They're 4-7 right now. Well, I don't know. Let's take a look at the schedule. They only got 3 games left, so up against 3 teams with they're up against Bucknell, Cleveland State, and Utah. They got Cleveland State at home, and a home game is exactly what this team needs. They've been on the road for pretty much the entirety of the season. Not having a conference to play in this year has really made the schedule a little bit funky. But they got the senior day festivities going on against Cleveland State, a struggling team. I think they'll be able to beat Cleveland State. Bucknell, they're only 1-4, except for the losses Bucknell, all of their losses have come to ranked teams, so kind of not indicative of the record there. I still think RMU can beat them. And then they play Utah at the end of the season, who is a good team. They were able to beat Boston University in double overtime, 11-10. I think it'll be tough. I think it'll be tougher than finding the mailroom when it's actually open on campus hours. But I think RMU men's lacrosse will be able to do it.
Yeah, I definitely think they have a chance to win out. You say Cleveland State's struggling team. I agree with you. They're 2-4 in the year. Bucknell's 1-4. And then I think they'll take that one. And then Utah, a little homecoming for Jimmy Perkins. Definitely think they can pull it out, but that'll definitely be the tough one. I think if they're gonna win out, Utah will be the one they'll struggle with.
Right. And so if they win out, do you think they have a chance to sneak into the tournament? Colby, we'll start with you.
No, absolutely not. If they beat Duke, or if they had beaten Duke or Virginia, maybe. They led Duke 4-1. They blew that. They were winning a little bit in Virginia, ended up losing 14-12. So I just think being a non-conference team, or an independent team, excuse me, hurts them. Being the size of the school, I just can't see it.
For them to make the NCAA tournament, they would have to be ranked, a top-ranked team, and be able to sneak in because they're not in conference. Even though, if you look at the ASUN league this year, if it were to be a league, Robert Morris would be at top of it, and they could potentially win that in the playoffs. But that's not going to happen. It will be tough, especially since you don't have. We'll get into like our next question eventually, but you're not going to have those seniors next year, and it'll be tough. I think there's no way that they'll be able to sneak in.
Right, and you just mentioned the ASUN, which they will join next year. Do you think they have a chance to win the ASUN next year in their new conference against some new opponents? Colby, what do you think?
Well, if you look at it, right now they would be winning it at a 2-0 record. They're 4-5 on the year right now, which we're looking at next year anyway, but that's hurting them right now. Cleveland State would be 1-0 in the conference. Air Force would be 2-1. Detroit Mercy hasn't played anybody in the ASUN. Utah's 1-2, and Bellarmine is 0-3. So if you look at it, I think they definitely have an outside shot at. If they were to do it, they have a shot at it next year, but you never really know. You're going to a new conference. It's kind of just a toss-up, really, but I think it's between them or Utah or Air Force who would really compete for it.
I think it's a little bit too early to predict, like you mentioned. I think just for the entirety of all the teams, especially RMU, I think it'll be just good to be able to get into a conference as well. And again, next season they're not going to have their best players in terms of, the graduates that came back. Ryan Smith's not going to be on this team next year, so it'll be challenging. It's too early to tell, but just being able to get some normalcy back, being in a conference will be good for all the teams in the conference.
All right, well, thank you guys for joining me tonight. It's going to be an interesting road to the remainder of the season for the men's lacrosse team.
Well, moving on to the women's lacrosse team. They have been on fire like the Ohio Pile. They were in action Saturday against the Youngstown State Penguins. Let's see how they fared in that one. Starting off in the first half, Colonials looking to get on the board early, and Cleo Kerr was able to bury one in the back of the net. This was her first of the third in the game. Then Lauren Otensmeyer got a goal off of a free shot. Then Kathleen Kelly got another goal off of a free shot. Kerr scored her second goal of the game right after that. And then Lauren Otensmeyer once again gets her second goal of the game off of a very nice long shot right there. Then Jocelyn Fickle brought the game within 5 goals with a free shot there to bring the score to 9-5. In the second half, another free shot here for Youngstown State. Abby Yesko with the goal there unassisted. And then Arise Lindsay was trying to bring the Penguins in, claw back in this game. And then RMU's Thalia Zalis with the final tally of the game to beat the Penguins 17-7.
So you mentioned, Ethan, how they have been on fire of late, and they are currently undefeated in the MAC. What are you making of this team so far this season as you look at the standings?
Just looking at how they've fared in the conference, I mean, their biggest competition was Central Michigan. They have a 4-1 conference record. RMU beat them 12-7 back in late March. So really, just looking at the rest of the conference, I mean, they blew past Kent State, and just the other teams in the conference, Youngstown State, who they demolished on Saturday, and along with Akron. I mean, I just feel like this is their conference to lose.
Right, and Central Michigan's really been the only team that has actually sniffed beating Robert Morris this year, but Colonial actually broke a record in that last game. Let's see who it was and what they broke. And it was Mackenzie Gandy. Surprise, surprise. She broke the goals record, which was set by Jen Collins in 2009, with her 129th goal, And actually, there was another record-setting performance in this game. Shay McCardle, with the caused turnovers record, single game record of 8. She broke that record set by Kelly Colgrove back in the 2018 season. So a pretty good game on all standpoints, Ethan.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, Mackenzie Gandy, she's been on a record-breaking trail this whole entire season. Breaking the points record earlier on in the season. And then now with the goals record, breaking it with 128 goals. So congratulations to her.
Yeah, and when we come back, we have a whole lot of football. We will see you after the break.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
So recently on Colonial Sports Center, we've had a tough time pronouncing names. You know, everybody just can't seem to get the flair for the names that we have here.
Supiani Melee?
Great.
Okay.
Number 2.
Neka Azibo.
Number 3.
Trinity Papamanjaris.
Okay, everybody together now. Santeri
Santeri
Hartikainen.
Hartikainen.
Okay, let's get the easy ones out of the way. Number 1.
Rion Smythe?
Okay, Ryan Smith, you're close, okay.
Okay.
Number
sorry.
2.
Luck Lynch.
Yeah, not quite, a little closer. Bring it to me.
Pete Matthews.
Pete Matthews. But hey, you're right there. Keep practicing. You're right there. All right, everybody. Last one together. You ready?
Coel Chasse.
It's Cold Chase. I think we should just, probably just find some new people. These guys.
Well, welcome back to Colonial Sports Center. Robert Morris football was in action over the past weekend as they took on number 7th ranked Kennesaw State. Let's see how they fared in that game. Well, starting off in this game, Xavier Shepard punches in on a 1-yard run, 8 plays for 40 yards on Kennesaw State's first drive of the game. Then after a 3-and-out for RMU, the Colonials had some luck on the side as Shepard fumbled the ball. It was recovered by the Colonials by Jamar Shegog. And then, that was a nice, good turning point for the Colonials, hopefully. But then shortly thereafter, George Martin was picked up by Bryson Armstrong. He runs it all the way back for a pick 6. Look at him go. 75 yards on the return there. That puts Kennesaw up early, 14-0, midway through the first quarter. And then Isaac Foster ran one in from 20 yards out on a pitch. And then moving on to the second quarter, Will Hagler will air it out to Xavier Shepard for a 33-yard TD. Pass, he was just wide open there. What a catch there. And then late in the fourth quarter, Adulo Adeki got one off the pitch there and ran that ball in for a 15-yard touchdown. 5 plays on 67 yards there as well. Kennesaw State wins this game 35-0. Well, this was a second straight loss for the Colonials after they faced JMU in the first game early in February. Luke Yost and Nick Hederick will break down the Colonials' struggles against the Owls. So guys, what went wrong for the Colonials in this game?
I think the better question would be what went right, Ethan. That's a fair statement, Nick. This team, they couldn't win on any side of the ball, it seemed like, and when they got their opportunity with that fumble, only down 7, 2 plays later, George Martin throws a pick, and goes back for 75 yards. Now they're down by 14 real quick.
And speaking of George Martin, you're not going to win a football game against the number 7 team in the country throwing for 51 yards a game. Now, Kennesaw State only threw for 45 yards, but they completed all 3 of their passes and had 322 yards on the ground. So I think there's a little difference there, perhaps, Luke.
Yeah, and this Kennesaw State defense did a great job. Their front 7 was incredible all game. They could not lose. Robert Morris, on their rushing attempts, 25 yards in the backfield they were tackled for. And also Kennesaw State's defense, 2 sacks for 15 yards. I mean, this Colonials offensive line just could not handle the Big South defense for the first time. And it's going to be tough sledding if this is how it's going to continue.
And if you look at the graphic on your screens right now, RMU had less total yards than Kennesaw State had rushing yards. That's not going to get the job done, Luke. I know it was their first game in 35 days due to some COVID-related problems, but that's just not going to get the job done.
And you mentioned it, 35 days is a long time, and it's only their second game of the season. If this happened after the 3, maybe 4 games in a season where they had to take a COVID break and it'd be for a month, that would be different. But we saw a football team out there, Nick, that just looked green. It didn't look they had any chemistry out there. The offensive line was Swiss cheese. The defensive line couldn't stop anybody. The defense looked sluggish. There was 0 side-to-side speed, sideline to sideline. They could not chase anybody down. We saw 2 runs around the outside go for 25-plus yards.
And, I mean, go back and backtrack a little bit to how long it had been since they played. Yeah, those mistakes that you just mentioned will likely happen, but you hope there's something you can grab onto and say, okay, maybe we can keep going here. Maybe we can find something good to take out of this. But I don't know if there was anything that we can take away other than, George Martin had a really rough game. That rarely happens. He's a veteran quarterback, always poised. Maybe he can help lead this offense going forward, perhaps.
Well, veteran's tough, Nick. He's only a sophomore. I think he's sophomore, junior. I mean, yeah, he's been the starter for 2 years now. But again, you saw that they brought in all these transfer receivers. They brought in a lot of guys who they came from outside places. And when you don't play for 35 days, they had a great game against James Madison, I think, all things considered. It was a moral victory for the Colonials. But they lost that momentum. They lost everything they had. They had a game plan going against Kennesaw State, and I really think what happened is they overthought it. They overprepared. That might be something you go, why would you do that? Well, when you have that kind of time to sit there and go, we're going to go meticulously through everything that's going to happen, but you're not going to roll with the punches that way. It's not going to be a natural play call from your offensive coordinator and your defensive coordinator. It's going to make the game be really, really, really planned out.
Well, it is getting hot in here because it is time for Hot Takes. Hot Takes is returned. Luke Yost and Nick Hedrick with me. Luke, what is your hot take?
My hot take is Robert Morris will cover a 6.5-point spread against Charleston Southern this week.
Mm-hmm. Nick?
Well, my hot take relies on Elijah Jackson, one of the best playmakers on the team. I think he has 5 total rushing touchdowns this season.
Well, my hot take, George Martin. He will throw for over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns this weekend against Charleston Southern. Well,
Ethan Morrison.
Whoa.
Ethan, have you ever watched Colonials football? This is the most Western Pennsylvania football team there's out there. They run the ball. They tried to pound the ball with Elijah Jackson, who is very undersized for his position. Now in the Big South Conference, we saw it against Kennesaw State. There is no way George Martin has 300 yards plus in him in multiple touchdown passes.
Okay, now hang on a minute.
You're due to the desk too, Ethan.
You don't just attack young Morrison like that, okay? Let's look at who George Martin has to throw to. Davon Robinson, he came from Rutgers. I've seen your GPA. You couldn't go to Rutgers to do anything. You got DeAndre Hicks. You got Jerry Hanks. Okay, you got some really talented receivers here. I might buy into this one, Ethan.
I mean, just look at how he played against James Madison. I mean, he didn't play the best, but he still played all right, 164 yards. Last week against Kennesaw State, we can just throw that one out the window, 51 yards. They had a month off.
You can't
give
throw
him
out
a
the
break.
window,
He's had a month
Ethan.
off.
And when that's your only way to move the ball. They tried to run the ball with Elijah Jackson. They got nowhere. They got 111 yards. And then guess what? The ball's now in your hands, George Martin, and you threw a pick 6 to get your team down by 2 scores and really put the game out of reach at that point.
But Luke, so you think this team can cover a 6.5 spread against Charleston Southern? Like, why? They lost both their games. Monmouth, they lost.
Because this will be the first time this season that we've seen the Colonials play on back-to-back weekends. And I don't care how bad you got your tail spanked on the first weekend. At least there's some sort of gel that happens there, some sort of chemistry that happens in the course of a 2 back-to-back games.
Charleston Southern's also 0-2. This is the most level game that they probably will play this season. I know there's only 2 games left on schedule, the pending game with Gardner-Webb if they can reschedule it. I might buy into that too, Luke. 6.5 points. This is a team that did compete with James Madison not too long ago. Maybe the Kennesaw State game gives me some concern, but now the gears are starting to turn. I think they can get things going well enough to at least cover a 6.5-point spread.
And Nick, you think Elijah Jackson will have 5 total rushing touchdowns this year? I mean,
That's what I said.
Have you seen him run the ball?
Yeah.
It hasn't been that.
I saw him get 90-something yards last week. You know how many yards they had as a team? 111.
I don't.
You're telling me I'm wrong?
Okay, against Monmouth the following week after, I don't see it. I mean, Monmouth's a great team in this Big South Conference.
Maybe you need to get better corrective lenses than the ones on your head right now, Ethan. This is a guy that's an electricity factory. He's a playmaker.
Is he lose your glasses?
Is he a little undersized given the position? Perhaps. But listen, Elijah Jackson moves quickly, moves nimbly, he moves around, he runs to the outside, hits the hole hard. I think this is a guy that can make this happen.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you, Nick. I think I mentioned it before. I've been saying it all season. If they can get Elijah Jackson going north and south, they have a chance to win games. Elijah Jackson, for being undersized and all the things that we're going to criticize him for, he is a good running back. He's the best one they have on their roster. And when he can run the ball effectively, that's when your George Martin, Ethan Morrison can actually have a decent game.
And the big,
not 300 yards and 5 touchdowns.
The big thing is he already has one. He's already got one. You're telling me that George Martin might throw for 300 yards this week and 2 touchdowns, but it's out of the picture for Elijah Jackson to score multiple touchdowns this week? I don't think so, Ethan. I think Elijah can get 2, maybe 3, maybe 4. I don't know, maybe 5 touchdowns this week. I don't know. Let's get crazy with it. Let's make the hot takes so hot it looks like the sun.
What we do know about this Charleston Southern team, Nick, and to your credit, this is a team that when teams run the football against them, they cannot stop the run. Robert Morris's defense was bad in the front 7. This was a terrible. Yeah, finish yourself
I'm
off.
perspirating.
Hot take, pal. They can't stop the run, and again, Elijah Jackson's gonna get going for this team. They're gonna find a way, but I still think Ethan's completely wrong with that George Martin thing. I can't even stomach it anymore.
You ever watch BBC, Ethan?
No.
You ever hear of a show called Top Gear? That's what Elijah Jackson's going to put it in on Saturday. Put that in the bank. Money in the bank. Call me Edge.
Well, thank you guys for joining me. Well, coming up after the break, we're going to be discussing some men's and women's soccer. They've only scored one goal this entire season. We'll have to see how they fared in their final games of the season coming up after the break.
What to expect when you're expecting a teenager.
Today we're talking about how to wake up your teen, and this works literally every time.
Give kisses. Give kisses. You heard how loud
I heard. It wasn't you. Yeah. It was the...
Is that bacon?
You don't have to know it all to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Awkward. I'm the awkward silence. You try to avoid me, then there I am again. But an awkward silence can be a great thing, like Kelly here is about to demonstrate.
You haven't really been yourself lately. Are you okay?
Find out how you can help a friend with their mental health at seizetheawkward.org.
Welcome back to CSC. Well, softball was in action against Purdue-Fort Wayne over the past weekend. After that series, they were supposed to play Northern Kentucky, but that game was canceled due to COVID-19 protocols. But they did travel to Purdue-Fort Wayne to take on the Mastodons after winning 3 out of 4 against Oakland. Let's see how they fared in Game 1 of that series. Well, the Colonials were able to defeat the Mastodons 5-3 to win their 4th straight game. Christina Mala, she's balling out like Paige Buckers. 1 for 3 with 1 home run and 2 RBIs. Rachel Reinhardt throws a complete game with 5 strikeouts on the day. Kendall Etheridge for the Mastodons was 1 for 3 with a solo home run. Shayna Irie went 7 innings, 3 earned, and 7 strikeouts on the day.
Now, the Colonials were once again in action against the Mastodons, looking to take yet another game out of that series as they continue to roll in their hot streak. Let's see how they did in that second game. And once again, Christina Mala. By the way, if you want to look at Christina Mala, who homered in that game, she did not homer in her first 62 games at RMU, and she homered in 3 straight. Natalie Higgins, by the way, put up her 31st RBI this weekend, and no one else on the team has 20. So very good performance in this game, as it was a shootout, 10-9 final score. I believe this one was an extra innings. So the Colonials fought tooth and nail for this victory, but they got it.
After the softball team swept Purdue-Fort Wayne on the first day on Friday, they look to continue their dominance against the Mastodons on Saturday in Game 1 of the second doubleheader. And the Colonials, there was some free softball in this game as the Colonials took the Mastodons 9 innings. They won 4-3. Christina Mala, once again, yet another home run. She's on fire as of late. She went 2 for 5 in this game with 2 RBIs on the day. Also, Natalie Higgins played well in this game, going 2 for 3 one home run and 2 RBIs on the day. Morgan Denny went 3 for 4 with 1 home run and 3 RBIs for the Mastodons. That was a 3-run shot. And then Rachel Everson went 2 for 4 with a solo shot for the Mastodons in Game 3.
Now, in Game 4, they were looking for a 4-game sweep. They haven't done that all season long, but they were looking for their first as a member of the Horizon League. Let's see if they could do that in this one. Unfortunately, the Mastodons finally found their offense in this series and finally found that competitive edge to win. But Charlotte Grover in this series had 8 RBI, and including 5 in the last 2 games. So she was pretty good for this team in the series. But Morgan Denny and Megan Mullaney both had 5 RBIs as well to counteract Charlotte Grover and won this game 9-5. The Mastodons salvaged the final game of the series. So now we can take a look at the standings, Ethan. It's been a really good season for softball any way you slice it.
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, just seeing the difference between them playing in the NEC in 2019 and then now them playing in this first full season in the Horizon League, I feel like they fared very well. You can see them right now. They're in 4th place. Ahead of them is Youngstown State, UIC, and Oakland as well. Youngstown State has they have a shot of playing Youngstown State. They play them a little bit later in April. They play UIC this weekend. Oakland, they just won 3 out of 4, so the Colonials are in a pretty good spot.
Right, and they could actually, they have an outside chance of hosting the Horizon League tournament if they finish in the top. Right now it would be Youngstown State if the playoffs started today.
Well, women's soccer looked to finish out their season on a high note as they faced the Youngstown State Penguins on the road. Let's see how they fared in that game. Well, the Colonials were not able to get their second win of the season in the final game as they fell to the Penguins 4-1. Chelsea Kingston scored the lone goal for the Colonials on the day. Haley Final had 3 shots, and all 3 of those were 3 shots on goal. Bethany Razzle scored 1 goal and had 1 assist on the day for the Penguins, and Kate McLaren had 12 saves and only the 1 goal against her on the day.
Now, in the words of Stained, it's been a while since both soccer teams have won, but let's take a look and see how they are fared in the Horizon League standings this season, women's soccer. It's been a weird year for them, and right now they sit currently at the bottom. They're not even sniffing a playoff spot. Season is over, so the top 4, they will not make the playoffs. As you can see, Northern Kentucky, Milwaukee, IUPUI, and UIC all make the playoffs. You know, we knew it was going to be a tough year for this team going into the Horizon League. They were never really the competitive jack in the NEC, but now the new coach and all that, just a lot of factors going against them this season.
I mean, we saw them play in the NEC prior to this, and they weren't the top team there, and just the move to the Horizon League after last season, I feel like it was a rough transition for them, but you know, you got the new coach, hopefully some new blood in there going in next year. Hopefully they can move their way up the standings.
So it's been a really long time since men's soccer has actually won or led. So let's see if they could close the season on a high note in the Cream City in Milwaukee. And their season ended like 6 other games this season ended with a shutout. The Colonials did not score for 388 consecutive minutes. This is their lowest goals for of all time, 1. I mean, this is really hard to surpass 1 goal in the season. The lowest since they scored 13 overall in 2016, but they won 4 games that season and they just lost. I mean, you know, Grant Glorioso did all he could in this game, but Abu Regasa scored a goal and an assist, and then 3 assists from Joshua Kidder, dishing the ball around really well as the Panthers won 4-0.
Yeah, and as we look at this the men's soccer standings this year, RMU, of course, I mean they're going to be at the bottom of the standings there. So let's take a look at those. I mean, just seeing how they played this year, they didn't finish in last. They were able to get the 1 win in the conference. Just tough sledding for them this season.
Really tough sledding, and luckily, I mean, it would have been nice for them to actually face IUPUI on the season if they could maybe get a free win out of them, but we saw how that went against the winless Youngstown State team for the women's soccer team. But yeah, it was a really tough year for Robert Morris Soccer as they transitioned over. Both teams were not really great in the NEC last year, and then they come over and are pretty much worse in the Horizon League.
Yeah, and men's soccer got a new head coach as well, so I mean, hopefully they can turn the tide in the next couple of years.
Yeah, but when we come back, we have upcoming games, and we have a couple of people down at the island. We'll see you after the break.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Today I'm going to talk to you about physics. Come on in, girls. Let's go. This is the first rocket to get humans to Mars.
Really tall.
I'm a rocket structural engineer, designing and building parts of the rocket. You are the generation that will be stepping foot on Mars. Do I have a group of astronauts on my hands?
Yes.
You can become a rocket scientist or whatever else you want to be.
Is going to pass it off to that's 21. That's Adamo and.
Hey, be good. Keep your head up. Let's get this.
So take a look at this goal here. Nick Berkusik sneaks it over the shoulder of Logan Drackett to win it in overtime, and the Colonials snap the losing streak, and they'll head on to Holy Cross with a victory. So welcome back to Colonial Sports Center. Our producer John Hanna is currently on a parcel of land surrounded by water on all sides. That's right, he's on the island, Neville Island, to tell us about how Robert Morris Golf fared in their last action.
Thanks, Tyler and Ethan. After a strong performance a couple weeks ago at the Carpetbagger Classic, the Robert Morris Golf team was in action this past week as they traveled to Penn National Golf Club for the Fairleigh Dickinson Invitational. Let's see how the Colonials fared in this one. The Colonials finished in a tie for second with the Bryant Bulldogs at 29 over par, 2 shots off eventual winner Sacred Heart. The Colonials were boosted by a strong second day, shooting 3 spots up the leaderboard after shooting a day low 7 over par as a team. It was individually, however, where the Colonials starred. Chris Sable won the tournament outright at an even 144 strokes. Chase Miller finished in a 3-way tie for second right behind Sable. Sable's victory marks the 4th consecutive season that an RMU golfer has won a tournament and Sable's first collegiate win. The Colonials will hit the links again on Monday and Tuesday as they travel to the Pete Dye Golf Club in Bridgeport, West Virginia for the Health Plan Mountaineer Invitational. For Colonial Sports Center, I'm John Hanna. We'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
And with that tournament win for Sable, he took home Horizon League Player of the Week for that. But also down at the island, Colby Sherwin was down at the island to talk about how the Colonials fared in the Mountaineer Classic for track.
Thanks, guys. I'm here at the RMU Island Sports Center here on the track as the track team was in action last Friday in the Mountaineer Invitational in Morgantown, West Virginia. Let's see how the Colonials fared in the Mountain State. It was a good performance all around for the Colonials as 9 total members of the team medaled on the day. Katura Hunter won the hammer throw with a toss of 52.8 meters. Yessi Valencia won the discus throwing 47.27 meters. And Tara Goldgram rounded out the golds for the Colonials, jumping 5.51 meters in the long jump. Valencia and fellow thrower Estelle Katende led the Colonials with 2 medals apiece, with Valencia earning her second, a silver in the hammer throw, and Katende finishing second in the discus and third in the shot put. The Colonials are in action on Saturday, April 17th, as they are here on the track for the first time since 2014 in a home meet in the RMU Invitational. For Colonial Sports Center, I'm Colby Sherwin. Let's send it back to Ethan and Tyler.
Well, it's time for a new segment here on Colonial Sports Center called Morrison's Minute. I'm going to be breaking down some of the top games this weekend and who I have winning them. Let's take a look. Well, I got Charleston Southern beating RMU in football 21-17. I just feel like after how the Colonials played against Kennesaw State and James Madison, I feel like Colonials are going to fight hard but still going to fall to Charleston Southern 21-17 in that one. Men's lacrosse, this is their senior day. They're going to be able to defeat Cleveland State at the Joe 17-10 on Saturday. That game's at 1 o'clock. I just feel like with the dominant season that Ryan Smith has had, and so as well as Jimmy Perkins, I feel like they're going to have a great game there and defeat Cleveland State, who's going to be their a member in the ASUN Conference next season as well. And also softball, they've won 3 out of 4 against they have won 3 out of 4 games against Purdue Fort Wayne and 3 out of 4 against Oakland. So this is a good series for them, especially with UIC being at the top of the conference. They're going to win 3 out of 4 against UIC, especially at home. I think they're going to play very well against them and, continue this hot streak that they've been on and hopefully propel themselves to hopefully hosting the Horizon League tournament in the month of May.
Yeah, it's really, softball has had a really interesting season, and that game right there, those games against USC, who's currently in the top part of the conference ahead of them, are going to be a really big precursor for the remainder of the season, Ethan.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially going up against the top team in the conference. I mean, we've seen how USC has played this year. They've been on a very hot streak as well, but, we'll just see how they fare this weekend.
All right, and take a look at the upcoming games for this week and see what all Colonial teams are in action. Women's lacrosse and softball are all in action on Friday, and then Saturday we got a lot of games. Take a look there. But that is all we currently have for you today, so we will see you next time here on Colonial Sports Center.